There we go, recording in progress. And when we're talking about today, clarity, it is in the midst of being hit with your best shot. So there's a reason why we pulled that song this morning. It's easy to have clarity and calm and sanity and all those things, right? When things are just rolling our way and we've got plenty of time and plenty of energy, and our children, get up in the morning and say, "Blessed Mother, thank you for all that you do." And they're doing all the things that we want them to do. Actually, let's just call it what it is. It's easy to have clarity and calm and sanity when we are in control or when we feel like we're in control. But today, I really wanted to dig into how do we maintain that in the midst of all the overwhelm. And overwhelm can even be a good thing. I know that almost every single name I'm seeing, I know so many of you, and I know that you love what you do. And even when you're in the midst of doing all that you love to do, how do you maintain calm and clarity? I talked with one of the physicians I work with yesterday, and it is his life's calling, and he loves it. And sometimes that's even worse because it's hard to check out when you absolutely love what you do. And that was the focus of our coaching call yesterday, is how do I continue to maintain balance, because there are other people in his life who need more of him, even in the midst of such responsibility, and you feel like it really is your life's calling. So I'm excited about where we're going today. I got two quick announcements. I have to show the super real made by the amazing but we are offering you an invitation to join us
Sherry,
on
we can't,
October the 18th.
We can't hear you over the music.
Okay. Well, I gotta show the real. Thank you. Okay, I'll turn it down a little bit. Can you hear me now? All right. I got a lot of things going on the screen. But listen, guys, we just would love to have you join us on October the 18th. We are going to have a one-day event that really is about like what we're doing right here, but all day long, with some amazing speakers that I am so super excited to announce. Hint, Amen Clinics is one of them. And if you've been around me at all, you know that Daniel Amen is one of my superheroes. So we have someone coming from his clinic to talk with us, and some other folks that we're going to be announcing. But I'm really excited about this day. And I just wanted to tell you the intent behind it. Every single week, we are working with leaders from different industries. Tomorrow, we're going to be with, construction. We're going to be with research later. We're going to be working with people in healthcare. We just work with so many different industries, which I absolutely love. But what I really wanted was to take one day and to bring all these great minds together, because what I see are so many best practices from different industries that don't cross over. And I wanted it to be a day that we could get some new information. I'm going to be doing some teaching, get some inspiration, just pull you out of the game for a little while, to pour into you and give you some time to reflect and maybe set some new goals. It's, to me, October is an optimal time to do this because kids are back. We sent our last one back to college last weekend. So, I mean, some things, there's order that has some sense of order has returned, but the holidays haven't hit yet. And it really is a time for you to just disengage, reflect, learn from each other. There's going to be a lot of time to do that. And it's a one day, okay? It's one day. And this is something that I've always wanted to do. And we finally had the team and the capacity to pull it off. And even better, I'm super excited that it's going to be at the Communities Foundation of Texas. It's a beautiful location. But even more important than that is the great work that they do at the Communities Foundation of Texas. If you've been part of the North Texas Giving Day, they are the force behind that. They support nonprofit, and anyway, just all good things came together. The link to get more information to register is in chat. But if you have any questions, if you're thinking, I don't know if this is the best investment of my time, let us know. Let us know. We'll just set up a call, and that's what we do. So just reach out at any time. That's my first thing, is just look at your calendar. If there is any way that you, like, if you've already planned a trip to, Italy or something, you get a pass. But if you're going to be in the area, or you could fly into the area, there are a lot of really awesome, inexpensive hotels nearby this place. We would just absolutely love to have you. And I guess the ultimate goal is that every single person who chooses to be there on that day, I want you walking out, just inspired for a next level of being a leader worth following, because that's legacy stuff. And I'm just really excited about this day. So that's my first thing. Consider it, look at your calendar, call us if you have any questions. And then the other thing that I want to ask you is go subscribe to our YouTube. We're posting lots of good stuff there, and the more people we get there, the better. And I was like, we are at a whopping 14 subscribers, I think, as of yesterday. So, man, when we hit 20, we're doing cartwheels. Okay, so just if you're a YouTube listener kind of person, just go subscribe. We'd be so happy. All right, so now we're gonna roll. I titled this Calm Clarity, or maybe Patty helped me. But anyway, I just want you to see, I'm a recovering English teacher. There's a lot of alliteration today. Calm clarity, unlocking productivity, potential, and possibility. So let me just break that down. What I'm really getting at is, how do you create your success and then learn to live in it so it doesn't eat you alive, so that you maintain the sense of joy and sanity and calm that you want. And the other cool thing about being here today is just to give you some practical things that not only you can use, but I guarantee you there is someone else in your life right now that needs to hear this. You're going to have an opportunity to help somebody else get to that level of calm and clarity. And because of that, really unlocking their best self. So as I was putting this together, which was a ton of fun, so hope you enjoy it as much as I did getting ready for it, I wanted to break it down into a few things. So we're walking away really clear on, when we're talking about high performer, what exactly do we mean by that? I wanted to take a look at what prevents us from getting to that level of high performance. And then I have to throw in a couple of things on how your brain responds to threat versus challenge, but leaving you with some really practical things that you can do to reframe threat to challenge. And you're going to see how important that ability is. So let's start here. It's always a good thing to start with the common definition. So here's how I define a high performer: is someone who exhibits sustained excellence over an extended period of time. And that level of excellence is not just in the external results that they produce. I'm kind of the belief that almost anybody can do that. I mean, if you work hard enough, right, and you're willing to put in the effort. But it's not only just the external, but the internal as well. And, now, like, you can't believe anything you see, right? Everybody's got a filter that makes them look younger. You see people on vacation and they look like they're having such a great time. We don't really know. But so when I think about high performer, there's this integrity piece, that it's not only the external, but what's going on internally as well. There's this sense of congruence. If that was the word I was looking for, congruence. So get somebody in mind, and that somebody may be you, and that'd be fantastic. And be confident in that if it's you. Don't hold back, but just have somebody in mind for just a few minutes of someone who really for you models this. You know them well enough to know that not only are their external results something that is sustained excellence, but also what's going on internally. So a lot of people have said this many different ways. I think Tony Robbins probably says this a lot because he's an NLP guru. I just got my certification in NLP, and NLP is neuro linguistic programming, and that's just a fancy way of saying, you know, it's the language of the brain in a way. And the heart of NLP is studying high performers, and let's see what are the thought processes, what are the communication styles of high performers, and let's see how we could duplicate that. But the truth is, like, success leaves clues. If any of you wanted to be out of debt or financially independent, you'd go study what financially independent people do in health and fitness and all that other. That's why we work with coaches, right? We want to look at who's somebody who's already doing this, who knows the secret, if you will, and let's go find out. And so when you think about high performers, if that's where we want to be, then let's study what it is that they do. So if you, you know, this is a model I use more than most people want to see, but it is a game changer. And there are a lot of these models out there. You know, some of them look different ways and they might have some different wording, but the concept is still the same. And it's telling us that the results in our life are coming from the actions we either are or are not taking. Okay, that's like chapter 1 of the book of Duh, but we sometimes forget. And if you have found yourself complaining about a certain result in your life, we have got to turn that mirror around. What is it? What are the actions that we are taking that's creating more of that? And what are actions that we're not taking that's leading to the result that we're complaining about? So volumes and volumes and volumes of books have been written on when it comes to high performers. What are the actions that they take? Atomic Habits, great book. I mean, there are just tons of these books out there. But what, and I think all of those things are good. But what's really going to make the difference is what are the beliefs that are fueling those actions that are driving those results? Like, what are the beliefs that we may need to shift? You know, I hate to keep throwing it back to 80s music this morning, but truly, you know, in the words of the great philosophers, 38 Special, hold on loosely to some of your beliefs. Some of your beliefs are not serving us anymore. Beliefs about what's possible, beliefs about ourselves, beliefs about other people. And so the last part of this model is that, you know, how have we formed these beliefs over time through experiences? Maybe they're our own experiences. It might be through experiences of people we've never even met or people we don't even know. I guarantee you some of us are holding on to beliefs that belong to great, 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 great grandmother, and we don't even know her name, but it has shaped the lens through which we are viewing the world, the beliefs that we're currently holding on to. So you can see how powerful this is for just about every area of your life. But I wanted to take it into this idea of high performers. So, you know, having a high performer in mind, I'm going to use like somebody crazy, but I'm a big Richard Branson fan. Now, he may be just the world's weirdest person. I don't know, but for whatever reason, he comes to my mind this morning. I don't know what his internal state is, but anyway, get the idea. So just have somebody in mind as you go along with this exercise. And I've got chat open. If you're not driving and you can enter into chat, I'd love to know your thoughts. But when you think about high performance, this congruence of someone who's exceptional, sustained excellence, externally and internally, what would be the actions that you would expect them to live out? What would be actions that you would expect them to embrace? Yeah, Justine, great. Self-accountability. Whew, I've been on a roll about accountability lately too, because I honestly believe we don't hold people accountable. I know that probably sounds counter to what most people say, but I think accountability is an inside out thing. I can lay consequences on you. Right? I mean, I can, if you don't show up to work, I can do something about that. I can gift you get consequences, but I'm not sure I can hold somebody accountable. Anyway, that was a rant, but that's just been in my head lately. Yeah, Deborah, thank you. Integrity. Ooh, and that's another great word, because all of us, well, I say all, definitely most of the people I work with would like to say they're a person of integrity, because integrity is doing what you say you're going to do a lot of the time. Like there's a consistency in who you are. So my challenge to some of you is, where are you not doing what you say you're going to do to yourself? In other words, like, where are you not making commitments, honoring commitments you made to yourself? That's integrity. That's internal integrity. So if you've committed to doing something for you, follow through with that as much as you would for anybody else. Sean, thank you. They're interested in solutions, but they're not over here on the other side where they're camping on problems or moving into blame. It's not about everybody else. I think if I ever write another book, the title's going to be, no, it's you. Okay. It's not everybody else. They speak the truth, even if, right? Even if it's hard, even if it's not popular. So on a coaching call earlier this week, where there's no gray, that they've got somebody on their team who's really nice and everybody really likes. She's not a performer. She's not performing, and everybody around her is suffering. So then you got to turn that mirror back on that leader. Like, what is it that you're resisting? And part of that is speaking the truth, because it's not going to be fun. It's not going to be popular. So I just want you to think about that for a minute. And I want to dig a little bit deeper. When it comes to high performers, what would be the beliefs about themselves, about what's possible, that they are embracing? So I just think about that for a minute. If you don't mind popping into chat, just something that comes to mind, that's so helpful. When you think about beliefs about impossible, well, I mean, just using Richard Branson, I, again, haven't met him yet, haven't been invited to his island yet. But if anybody has any connections, I'd like to go. But yeah, like their beliefs is that honesty and transparency are non-negotiables, Deborah. I love that. So good. Going back to Richard Branson, I'm not sure that impossible or can't is even a belief that he even entertains, because it does some audacious things. Beliefs about asking for help. Boy, that's a big one that we hear a lot. Well, I can't reach out and ask for help, or I can't delegate. But it's not, that's an action. But you got to dig into, well, what's the belief that's driving that? Yeah, like they're going to take a look at what's possible. How can we make it happen? They're holding on to a belief about not only what's possible, but also a confidence about themselves. That's where the work is. Honestly, new levels, new devils. When we show up to new levels, the new devils show up, and oftentimes it's in the form of a belief that needs to be modified in some way. So the other thing I just want you to think about is, what would be experiences that they would be willing to have? High performers, what kinds of experiences are they likely to embrace? And even if it's hard or unpopular or it's scary, they're more likely to embrace those experiences. A willingness to be uncomfortable. And, oh, thank you, Sean. Yes, like failure as well as success. So a willingness to go into the unknown, knowing there are no guarantees, but it isn't necessarily failure, it's feedback, a willingness to be uncomfortable. Lance and I have termed this, it's not copyrighted, so you can use it, but we call it FOBU, FOBU, fear of being uncomfortable. And you could fill in that in with a lot of words, right? Fear of being unpopular, fear of being in the unknown. So they're more willing to embrace that uncomfortable and the unknown. Okay, so I'm going to dig into this a minute. So what prevents this is where I want to go for a second. In 1974, this book was written. I'm just curious, has anybody read The Inner Game of Tennis? So you might want to put it on your list. So I came across this maybe 2 years ago, even though it was written in 1974. And I just hate it when things like that happen, where I think something's been there that many years and I'm just now finding out about it. But the belief has to be that it's showing up exactly when I need it. So maybe that's true for you. So let me just break down some highlights of this book written in 1974. He introduces a formula, which is capital P equals lowercase p minus lowercase I. And what this means, what he was saying in 1974, before we had all the brain imaging, before we had access to just about every study that's ever been done and every thought leader who's ever lived, he says performance is your potential minus interference. Now, the goal of this book was, the surface goal was to help people learn how to play tennis. But there's so much more going on behind this book because it's not just the mental side of athletic performance, but it's the mental side of high performance, period. And so the point being for us to really think about is high performance may not be about doing more. Getting to high performance may be about reducing the interference and allowing our God-given potential to really thrive. So in the book, he breaks down 2 inner selves because it's the inner self that's driving the outer game. Thus the title, The Inner Game of Tennis. And he talks about, so this is 1974, keep that in mind. He talks about self 1 and self 2. Self 1 being the judge, the critical part of you. So if we're playing tennis, I've never actually played tennis, but I've always wanted to, but I play other things. I'm not really that good at it, but self 1 is the critical part, which is the part I just mentioned. That's judging, that's critiquing, that's, conjuring up all past experiences where you might have failed. We all have this. Self 2 that he talks about in the book is like this relaxed part of who we are. It's the part that can not judge, that can turn that down. And so we all have that in us. And it's really that voice that really knows what to do. And his point in the book is the goal is to reduce the interference of self 1 so that self 2 can just naturally shine. So if you ever have a free moment, go on YouTube and look up some of the videos. There was a video that he did in 1974 with a lady who had never picked up a tennis racket. And so it's kind of fun to see her actually following his instruction. And then if you look at what she's wearing, that's even better. I mean, that's worth looking up the video alone. So let's fast forward. So, like this person wrote a book about 7 principles. And these 7 principles, that I think that's when I found his book and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so fantastic. It really is about how do we lead, learn, and live the way the brain works best. And Timothy Galloway was giving us a hint into that. Clearly, he was not the only one, but he was one doing it before we had better brain imaging. Now, fast forward into what, in my book, this is the principle. Just going back, if you notice, there are 7 principles, but this is the principle of challenge. And essentially, self 1 here that he was talking about is threat. This is what threat will do to your brain. And self 2, where we can turn that down, is your brain on challenge. And so I just want to dig into that for just a second. So how does the brain respond to threat versus challenge? And why would we even care about this? And why would it matter in the first place? Well, this is what's blocking us oftentimes from reaching that high performance. And just one more time, high performance being not only what we're accomplishing externally, but doing it in a way that there's calm and joy and peace and sanity in the process. So just important, not all threat is negative threat. Some threat is very motivating. And but when I'm talking about negative threat, we're always talking about at least 3 criteria. There are probably more, but in our world, in the coaching world and leadership development world, these are the 3 that we see the most. That interference, that self 1 he was talking about, negative threat, are things where there's a lack of clarity. There's some level of confusion. The second characteristic is that we don't feel like we have a lot of choice or a lot of voice in it. So whether we do or we don't, remember, your brain really doesn't care. If it perceives it as such, then it's going to react accordingly. So that there's a lack of clarity, there's not a lot of choice, and we are anticipating a negative consequence. So you can see how important this is for leaders to know this information, for us as individuals to know this information. So again, let's go back to COVID. COVID was a great example of what happens long term when there's not a lot of clarity, when people don't feel like they have a lot of choice, and when they're perceiving a negative consequence. It starts out with hoarding toilet paper, and then it's going to continually get worse. People are going to turn on each other. We had racial tensions like never before. People are storming the Capitol. In your organizations, it might sound like this division of us against them. We hear that all the time. Carpet against the concrete, staff against management, north against south, whatever. It just is. And what we've got to pay attention to is that's interference to high performance. And it's telling us that there's a lot of brains on threat. Because when your brain is on threat, here's what you're most likely going to see. You're going to see people getting really defensive, like sensitive, all right? You're going to see that overly defensive to things that really shouldn't trigger that much defensiveness. You're going to start seeing people get really narrow-minded, because when your brain's under threat, your visual field narrows, so you can focus on the bear coming at you. But internally, the same thing is happening. We get tunnel visioned, and so therefore we get committed to being right or being in control, or we resist going into those high performance experiences that are the unknown. Right? If a lack of clarity is what's causing threat, then when we're moving into the unknown, get ready. You might have that feeling. We get really reactive, or obviously more prone to getting sick. But that's a big deal. But even more than that, we can't see from different perspectives. We lose our ability to be creative and innovative. We start talking in terms of either or, black, white. We just get so committed to being right, I think, is one thing that we see every single day. Now, the good news is with all of this is that when you're seeing that, you know what's going on now. And I'm going to give you some ideas of how you could work through it. And I'd like to say that we have this magic wand that can change everybody around you, but the real change happens when you can recognize this in yourself. And that's where the real power place is. You do always have choices. You have choices. So getting stuck oftentimes feels like I don't. I can either do this or I can do this. But typically, there are lots of options in between there. So the difference is with self one, brain on threat, well, no wonder why people are not reaching their optimal level of performance. So self two, he was talking about, is what we would say is your brain on challenge. But when we can dial down the threat, or as he said, dial down the interference, if we can do that, then we start to see something very different. Actually, we have more willpower. So that's often a good thing. But willpower in a lot of different ways. We have more willpower financially. So we don't maybe make some dumb financial decisions. We have more emotional willpower. We have more perspective taking willpower. So I can see your point of view even if I don't agree with it. Like, think about the last time maybe somebody came at you a little hot, but we weren't triggered by that. You were able to see through why they were coming to that conclusion, even if you didn't agree with it. That's a great place to be. Whether that's through NLP or through systems theory, there's a lot of great work around that, but it's just showing us that those that can remain most flexible and adaptable always hold the winning card. And so it's when I'm not committed to being right, then I can be more flexible and adaptable. Because of that, I'm going to be able to be more creative and innovative and see possibilities where others may not. It's a powerful thing. I'm also going to have a lot more focus, and I'm going to have more energy because of it. So this is now fast forward when Timothy Galloway was talking about in 1974, self one and self two. Now we've got all of this great research that allows us to see that, yeah, he was spot on. This is my brain on threat, and these are the results that I'm going to get. This is my brain on challenge, and all new doors start to open up, new possibilities. You might have had somebody do that for you. I'm thinking back for me about 10 years ago when I worked with a coach for the very first time. Started reframing what I was seeing as threat, as possibilities, as challenge, and doors started opening up. Again, I didn't even know those doors were there, that those options were even possible. So the one tool that I wanted to give you today, in the time that I have, is listen, what are some practical ways we can frame it? Because the only difference between threat, getting stuck, shut down, and all the cascade of results that come from that affect you and everybody around you, from possibilities, the only difference is how we choose to frame it. One example that hits home for me was when I was in college, and I thought I was this amazing writer. And I had a professor that not only my first paper, he gave me an F, but he wrote the word eek out to the side of it. And, that was a moment, for whatever reason, my brain chose to frame that as challenge. Like, I was like, all right, buddy, I'll show you. Little did I know how much I was going to learn from him. But, you think about what's threat to one brain may be challenge to another. And one thing that I see that high performers do really well is that they don't take the bait with threat. Like, they recognize it's threat, but they do something with it. They have an ability to reframe into challenge. So I just wanted to, this morning, share with you just something that we use a lot that I find really, really effective, that not only helps us create better external results, but to have the better internal results to help us get there, because that is how we reduce the interference. So the one thing I want you to think about this morning is, what's something for you right now that's causing interference? That would be in the formula, what is blocking you from reaching that potential, which is leading to high performance? So I thought I'd throw some questions out to kind of get your brain going in case you haven't had enough coffee. And it is early. So for some of you, even earlier, because you're in a different time zone. But I want you to think about what's showing up in your life right now that's causing interference. And we want to be grateful for that, because it's showing up to grow you. That's why it's showing up. So what's the event that's causing interference? Here's a few questions that might help you get to that if it isn't immediately obvious. What's keeping you up at night? You might think about, what's a nagging thought that just won't seem to go away? What's a limiting belief that you might be having right now? What's a doubt or a worry? Those are sometimes the roads that lead you to find the interference. What's something that seems impossible? Or just what's an overall energy suck? Okay, technical terms here. What's just something that's just sucking your energy right now? So the difference, is rather than trying to push that down and to make it go away and ignore it, what we need to do instead is we need to turn and look deep into its eyes, because it is showing up for a reason, and this is how we grow. So the analogy in a book I just recently read was, sometimes this is like an inflated beach ball that you're trying to push under the water. It takes a lot of effort to do that. And if you get enough of those beach balls, you're not going to be able to hold them underwater. They're going to pop up. So if we really want to take a look at how do we reduce the interference, step one, look at the interference. Let's identify it. Let's invite it in to our home, onto your desk. Let's take a look at it, and let's get clear on what that is. So that's step one. So that's my homework that I'm assigning you. But here's step two. And step two is, I wanted to just give you 5-ish questions that you could really use to analyze this interference. And here they go. Okay, you ready? Sounds so simple, but this can be a total game changer. What meaning am I giving this? And sometimes that interference, I'm not making light of the interference, because sometimes the interference is really serious. It's heavy. It might be something dealing with your kids. Okay, that hits home hard. It might be something dealing with your health, or, we're in a time of, a lot of financial crisis and job loss and things of that nature. But honestly, I'm kind of the belief, I hate to put this out there, but man, even in the hardest situations, if we can use some of these questions, we can reframe. And the reason why we would want to do that is not to Pollyanna and ignore what's going on, but rather we want to do that because in your brain, it opens up new possibilities, new paths, new doorways, whatever your metaphor is, of how to manage this more effectively. And that is not only going to allow you to be congruent in high performance, but it also impacts every single person around you. If you guys have had a chance to go to our new website, I love, like, the tagline now that I love is, being a leader worth following. This is the stuff. This is the difference that makes the difference. So asking yourself, what meaning am I giving this? That alone is a game changer. But I'm going to give a few more. What meaning do I want to give this? Powerful, powerful, powerful. Man, I could give so many examples, but let's say, you get a family member, they call you up and they start blasting you. Or somebody at work, or job loss or whatever that is. What meaning do I want to give this? To be that conscious can really change everything, right? So just really taking control back there. I have a third question that I love. You've heard this before, but just a reminder. Does this thing, does this interference, this event deserve my attention or my energy? Because I truly believe you wake up every single morning, ideally you got a decent night's sleep, with this precious commodity called your energy. And especially in the roles that you guys are in, because you're thought leaders, right? Your currency is your ideas. And your energy is precious. And we want to be so mindful of who and what we're giving it away to every single day. So just asking yourself, the difference is how I describe it is attention means I need to address it. Yes, I need to deal with it. I need to answer this email. But does it deserve massive amounts of my precious energy? Because most days, there are very few things that really demand your precious energy. And it's usually the things that are going to help you be the best version of you. So that's a question that can help you reframe in those moments faster. Number 4 question is kind of a 2-part. Is just to take a look at that interference, take a look at that event, and ask what is mine to own and what isn't. Because some of us need to be lifetime members of Over Owners Anonymous. Like, what is mine to own in this and what isn't? So I'm going back to maybe the coaching call yesterday with the leader who's got someone, they really need a high performer in this role, and the person they have isn't, right? Well, what is his to own in this? Maybe it's giving her the feedback clearly rather than hinting around. Maybe it is making the call to remove her from that role. Maybe it is to have a conversation about, is she even happy? My guess is she's probably as unhappy as he is. Because if she's not doing high performance, who wants to live with that and the consequences? So maybe it is to have the conversation. What isn't his to own is whether or not she steps up. Like, if you're wanting someone's success more than they are, it's likely you might be over-owning. I don't know. I'm a poster child over-owner. I think that's called enabler, and I'm good at it. I can take that bait all day long. So these are just questions that you can ask. My final question here that I think is so powerful is thinking about whatever that interference is, whatever the event, how do I respond to that in alignment with who I aspire to be and what I aspire to achieve? Because going back to our results model, oftentimes the experiences where it's unknown, what oftentimes we see is people say no, right? It's unknown, it's unclear, it feels risky, and people will say no. But if in that moment that I'm perceiving that as threat, if I could maybe ask, wait a minute, how do I respond to that in alignment with who I aspire to be and what I aspire to achieve? It might give me a different level of courage and willingness to look into that unknown and do it anyway. Because just because something feels true doesn't make it so. Like we have all been there where it feels like security. That doesn't necessarily make it security. So just know that your thoughts lie and you don't have to believe every one of them. And just because it feels true doesn't make it true. It might be, but I want you to just be so aware because really there's so much that's coming at us every single day, and so little of that we are paying conscious attention to. So these are questions that can help you maybe slow it down a minute and essentially reduce the interference. Here was the visual that AI created for me. Isn't it amazing? but I wanted a visual that was like, I think about a radio station. If you've ever been driving and maybe you're outside the range of your normal radio stations and you don't subscribe to Sirius XM and you're looking for a station, we've all been in those moments where it's static, static, static. But if I can reduce that interference, there's a clear signal. And then we've got that calm clarity. And when we have that calm clarity, it really does allow us to next level possibilities and potential and productivity. And I think what we've talked about, in these few minutes is the thing that makes all the difference with all the other things. So my challenge to you is identify the interference, try those questions, see how it makes the difference for you, but also observe the impact that it has on every single person around you. All right, so look, we're at 8:50, 8:49 to be exact. I always hang around, and if you guys want to sit around, and hang around and talk about any of this, but I will tell you, if you think this is good, join us on October 18th. This is going to be really the focus of the day is how do you love your life, lead with intention, leave a legacy. That's the reason why we do all this hard work that we've done. So that's what the focus of this day is about. It's in Dallas. A lot of you are in Dallas, so how convenient is that? It's on a Friday. You're not going to be doing anything else worthwhile on Friday, so come join us. It's going to be a ton of fun, and I'm going to give you lots of time to think through some of these things, to bounce ideas off each other. So that's what that day's about. All right, so if you're joining us next month, and again, we'll hang on if anybody wants to hang around and talk about this content. But where I wanted to go next month is strategy. We use that word so much. They need to be more strategic, or I need to be strategic. We're going to dig into what that really means and maybe some practical ways to help you get there faster, because it is such an important role. But that's our focus in September. Okay, guys, thank you so much. I know that you could do anything with this last hour. You chose to spend it with us. I can't thank you enough for doing that. And you know where we are. If there's anything we can help with, just reach out. We're not that busy. We can always help wherever we can. And I'd love to see you back here in September. Invite a friend and get signed up for October. All right, let's go make it a great day. It's worth it. All right, thank you guys so much. I'm going to end the recording, but hang on if anybody wants to hang around and talk about any of this. See you soon in September.